And Good Morning Thailand, our Thursday edition, 4th episode for the series. And we'd like to welcome our guest today. We have, at the end there, Bill Barnett.
Hi, Tim. Actually, your shirt's great today. I'm loving it. It's almost brighter than the Thaiger painting.
I'm trying my best. Actually, I had most of my shirts up in Bangkok and they were all bundled up in a box and sent down. The thing is, you can't see if they're ironed or not, so that's why I'm wearing them. And we also have Shaun Stenning. Now, Shaun, just to give you a bit of background, he's not only the MD of 5 Star Marine, but he's also been involved in helping a lot of Thai people over not just a few weeks or months, but a whole year. But we'll be getting into that story a bit later. So welcome, Shaun. Thanks for coming.
Good morning, Tim. Thank you.
The boy from Echuca in Victoria.
You know, no one's going to know what that is. They're going to go Google it now.
Well, 3 people will. There's 3 people from Echuca, right?
That's E-C-U-C-H-A.
Oh, E-C-H-U-C-A, yeah.
There you go. And Bill Barnett from which part of the US? California?
California, Los Angeles.
Okay, so 2 Victorian boys and a Californian. Great to have you with us too. Just some breaking news for you. Fox News International has announced that it's expanding into Asia, and I thought we could already get it in Asia, but it's launching today, and the platform's going to be launched in 37 countries today, including in Asia, Japan, Hong Kong, Mongolia, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Maldives, but no mention of there going to be any local programming.
Tucker Carlson, oh my God. Okay, that's going to be a whole new paradigm.
Certainly is. Now, the Sesame Street word of the day today is adapting. Now, the reason we're talking about adapting or adaption is because there are some really interesting stories over the past 12 months about businesses that have adapted. Bill, of course, in the hotel industry, there has been a lot of adaptation that's been caused by the government's closure of the borders, by the restrictions. Have you got some stories about some interesting adaptations?
I think it's been an interesting time for hotels to reinvent themselves. We've had Twin Palms, certainly they have anybody who knows Catch Beach Club there, they've seen them able to readapt the Catch Kids Club into the Lazy Coconut. And what they did is they created this outlet with their own staff using repurposed materials, using innovative ideas from their own staff. They're saying, we have so many staff, how are we going to keep them going to work? And that was really intriguing for us because it's a matter of businesses recreating themselves. We've all seen a huge number of small businesses. Alex Odie is doing sourdough bread out of his own house. We've seen people who are reinventing and saying, this is a great chance for, while there's a downturn, to reinvent your business as well. And I think that's important.
There's also other success stories. I know there's an island off Phuket where they've got the Treehouse Resort.
Treehouse Villas, sure.
They've had almost 90 to 100% occupancy pretty much all the way through the last 12 months. And they've done that by adapting their target audience and going hard on recreating a new set of customers.
And Instagram tourism. The amazing thing about this, when you speak to them, they don't have a marketing budget. It's so, that's been with Thais love Instagram, and they don't need a marketing budget because Thais taking pictures from morning, noon till night in the Treehouse Villas. That's driving marketing.
And another success story has been 5 Star Marine. Now, you used to have, 7 or 8 boats?
So we started off pre-COVID with 2, and now we're 11.
Now, this is interesting because you used to have mostly international tourists going on the boat trips.
100% international tourists. Never had Thai tourists or even expat tourism back then. It was a 100% international market.
So when did you decide that you needed to do something? When did you sort of see, this is going to be around for a while, we're going to have to make some changes?
I think honestly for us it was really that first lockdown last year when we decided that the only way out of this was to completely reinvent the business and start thinking about domestic tourism, local tourism. So I think we started our first product, we started to do transfers. We never ever did transfers ever, but we started to introduce doing transfers from Phuket to Yel Noi. So we did a lot of those treehouse transfers and then also out to Yel Yai to Santia. That was the start of my business rebuilding, and then from there transfers out to PP, and then from there we started to do overnight work. We never did overnight work in the international market, but now my number one product's a 5-day, 4-night trip. So this is different because I think the sales cycle here is also a very different. I have a longer time with my customer, so they're here full time, so I can spend more time to explain to them why they want to go overnight, Whereas in the international market, maybe I can get 1 or 2 trips. I've already pre-booked their accommodation, so the concept of going on an overnight trip on a speedboat is scary. But for the local tourism, I think it's great, and we get to see places we've never seen before.
I think something interesting for me would be, do you think your business is going to change in the future? The way you've pivoted all of a sudden, do you think this is the way we're doing business with tourism? Is that going to change going forward? Are we going to have to keep pivoting, be quicker, be adaptive in the future?
Look, I think personally for my business, of course, we're going to be we're always going to keep a domestic portfolio in our business moving forward. And I actually think that might even be the larger percentage of our business moving forward so that we can mitigate risk. And then I also do think in the international, even the inquiries I start receiving now for next year, people are looking more to book with us first before they book the hotel. They're asking us, where's the pier? Where's the boat going to go? We want to book around you.
Get outside.
Yeah, and so it's very interesting to watch now. And I do think that moving forward, things are definitely going to be different. And for us, our business is completely different to what it was before. A lot more time spent face-to-face with people, a lot more trip planning, and now even like for these July coming holidays, people are asking us about, where's safe to go. We want to get a couple of days off the island.
Bucket list too, as well, right? Bucket list.
Also, the Thaiger has massively changed over the past, 12 to 18 months. As soon as this happened, our traffic kept going up because people want to know the news, but the advertising revenue dropped incredibly because a lot of businesses weren't advertising anymore. And when you look at the Thaiger, both on the website and YouTube, there's no local advertising. There's no Shaun's Cafe or Bill's Hotel. All the advertising comes from what we call programmatic advertising, which are those advertisements you see between the paragraphs on the website and interruptions to the YouTube programs. And those advertisements are different for everybody depending on your previous search history, and also depending...
Those cookies, you mean?
Cookies, and depending partly also on the content in the story. So we moved to that programmatic advertising, and we sort of really worked hard to maximise it. And there's been a lot of other changes, including more of this YouTube content, and moving a bit away from the website. I mean, website news, or the idea of putting a photo, headline and text has been around for 100 years, first in newspapers and then onto the web. But if you're just using that as a business model, you're not going to be making any money in the future. The whole news business has profoundly changed. So we're all changing and adapting.
So for you, when did that start? What was the date? Was there a date in your mind when all that changed?
Well, probably a bit like you. We sort of sat down during that first lockdown going,
what do we do now?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. And we could see our numbers we could see the numbers very obviously. So we had a few crisis meetings and some long evenings.
I think
here we are.
In that lockdown period, you have time as well. So you're starting to think, how do I stay busy so I don't go crazy? And that's what I did. That's the way we started to change our marketing at that point, because it was like, if I didn't have something to do, I would have gone crazy.
All right, we're just going to interrupt now for the news headlines, see what's happening around Thailand today. Hot topics around Thailand today. Firstly, the COVID numbers, 3,323 new infections over the past 24 hours, including 47 deaths. Again, a high number of the new cases found in Thai prisons. The more prompt COVID-19 vaccine registration line account has been scrapped. They're going for provincial apps. That's going to be interesting. Mahadon University has confirmed that they did not state that fingerroot is effective medicine for treating COVID-19 symptoms. 6 people have been arrested in Pattaya for illegal online gambling operations. In Koh Samui, they have arrested 9 people for gathering and drinking alcohol. I think we're seeing that happening in different parts of the country. And a man has died after receiving a Sinovac vaccine in Phuket, Phang Nga. We'll have, of course, more news at thethaiger.com. Back to the program. Now to some of the main topics today, and we'll start with the situation in Thailand, the vaccine rollout. Now, as foreigners, we're a little bit confused as to when or if we'll be able to have access to vaccines, those people who want to be vaccinated. But an announcement yesterday from the Thai government that the More Prom app, the Line app, is being scrapped as a way for Thais and potentially foreigners to register for the vaccines. They're now going to get the provincial governments, all 76 of them technically, and Bangkok, to develop their own apps. Only 3 provinces currently have apps. That's Nonthaburi, Bangkok and Phuket. This isn't going to go well.
I'm gobsmacked by that, actually. Thailand has one of the highest internet penetration rates in the world. 2 out of 3 Thais have access to the internet. It also has some of the highest smartphone usage in the world as well. Thais sitting online all the time.
Yeah, and all these provinces, the governors sort of going down to the IT department saying, can you guys rustle up an app in a few days and make sure it works and get it rolled out? What's happening in your company with vaccine registration?
So we saw some news coming out that it looks like that when we open July 1, that unless staff are vaccinated, and including us owners as well, if we're not vaccinated, we can't accept international tourism into our business.
This is an official stance from the government?
So right now they've come out and said that businesses that are TAT, SHA approved can take international...
TAT, Tourism Authority of Thailand. Yeah. SHA is the
Safety
Amazing
and Health
Thailand...
Administration.
Amazing,
Safety and Health.
It's the Amazing Thailand Safety and Health Administration. That's its official name.
Yeah, so I think you have to go back. Like when we closed last year, the TAT came out and said, if you want to reopen as a business, you have to have this accreditation, which tells us how to do business in a COVID way. Now they're saying if we want to take international tourism, we must have the same accreditation. But there is a belief that there's going to be a launch of a program that says to keep this accreditation or a version of this accreditation, you have to have fully vaccinated staff. So it looks like we have to politely request that all of our staff get vaccinated so that we can then take international tourism.
Okay, so hypothetically, I'm one of your staff. Shaun, I don't want to get vaccinated. I have fears. I'm not sure whether it's safe.
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer, but I think right now, as it stands, we'd have to say you can't work on a boat that has an international tourist on
but
it.
I've got a wife and I've got 3 children. I've got mouths to feed. What am I going to do?
Let's just hope that you're good at something else.
I think in terms of hotels are struggling with the same thing. Hotels now are being told that their staff have to vaccinate. And, hotels are saying maybe or perhaps if staff aren't vaccinated, they'll work in the back of house, they'll work in ancillary functions as well. But again, it's a work in progress. I mean, anytime we understand the pandemic, SHA guidelines will shift as they continue to shift for the past year.
I think it would be less of a problem for the staff if they had choice of vaccine. Yeah. A lot of the staff want to vaccinate, but they want to wait for AstraZeneca or something else to come in. They don't want to use Sinovac. But now, if we're going to open July 1, the only choice they have is Sinovac. So it's like get Sinovac or don't work. That's the reality of what we're getting told.
And there was a big story yesterday from Phang Nga where a person who had been vaccinated with the Sinovac vaccine died. And I think the quote is, just checking here, can't find it, but the person had a fatal condition or something reported by the doctor, and his wife also admitted that he had cholesterol, very high cholesterol, although she also blamed the vaccine for his death. That doesn't usually resonate well with the Thais who are perhaps on the borderline of deciding whether they want to be vaccinated or not.
That goes back to the original Phuket sandbox model last year when they originally talked about having Phuket open, and they had local opposition because there was a fear factor, and there will be a fear factor going through this whole process. And some of the news, whether it's correct or not in terms of the underlying health conditions and everything else, more people are going to die on a motorbike than they're going to die from the Sinovac vaccine, let's face it. There's a lot more big bad wolves out there as well. So
but,
again,
I think with that said, though, the local Thais are very superstitious. They read a news story like this, and I'm certain that yesterday that the vaccine centres would have had a lot of people no show. Once the immediate news coming out, and then I know.
Well, they're online groups and they're on.
I know personally a lot of Thais that didn't go yesterday. They had appointments and they didn't go because they were worried. They're significantly worried.
Sure.
Well, it's going to roll out over the next few days, the ramifications from that particular story. So for Phuket, because this is the Sandbox pilot program, they're having to reach 70% of people vaccinated before the government say it's going to be safe to reopen. Stories like this are not going to help. There's probably going to be another percentage of people, maybe 5%, maybe more, who suddenly go, I don't know if I want to get vaccinated.
I think the other critical factor will be tourism businesses throughout Thailand. As soon as tourists do start coming back to Pattaya, to Chiang Mai, to Koh Samui, to Krabi and these locations, many of the staff work upcountry and they're going to start coming back. So you are going to have people moving around. So this is, the pandemic is not a specific crisis for a certain area. It's Thailand specific. And there has to be a strategy countrywide, just not area by area. The sandbox is a nice idea. It's a good idea, has merit, but you can't isolate Phuket and you can't isolate these places from Thailand. This is a country issue.
Over the past 24 hours, the Biden administration in the United States has asked for a 3-month investigation into the origins of COVID-19. Now, I just wanted to have a talk to you guys first about what you believe are the origins of COVID, based on the stories you've read and the information that you've soaked in. Bill, what's your understanding of where COVID came from?
Exactly. I'm not a scientist.
Right or wrong?
I am absolutely not a scientist. I understand the intention. I think I go back to intentions as well, trying to find out where it came from. I don't know where it came from. I have no idea where it came from. I understand the idea is to find and pinpoint for a health problem, because there will be a pandemic in the future again. This is going to happen again. I don't think it makes sense to make a blame game. We were talking earlier about the Spanish flu. Why is it Spanish flu? It actually happened in the U.S. as well. Why do you want to make a xenophobic name towards it from a political agenda? But I think it is important from a health crisis standpoint to try to find, same with SARS, Ebola, they have to go back and trace these from a practical standpoint. I think that's very important.
The difference to me is that, I understand that it's probably most likely a zoonotic disease. It's come from the animal kingdom and it's leapt into the human species. Probably at some of the wet markets. That's sort of the current scientific vibe of what they believe is the origins of COVID. However, there is a body of people out there who believe that it was actually developed inside a lab and weaponized by the Chinese Communist Party to take over the world or something, which doesn't really make much sense. But there is this body of people who believe that. And the past couple of days, you've had people like Dr. Fauci who have said it's a possibility that it may have come from a lab, which means they could have isolated it from those wet markets and then it somehow escaped as a mistake, which is a very different situation than somebody intentionally coming down from the Chinese Communist Party and getting out the test tubes and planning world domination. What do you understand as the origins in your mind?
I'm similar to Bill. I think at this point, 14 months down the track, we're going to go and try and find the origin of something in a country that's probably very well controlled. I don't think they're ever going to find the true origins of it. So I think we just deal with what's in front of us now.
So the origin is not really important to you.
Honestly, for me as a business owner, it's not. I have to face what's going to come tomorrow, and so I'm looking forward, not looking back. It's happened, and we've adapted, and we move forward. And it would be nice to have a nice sealed box around it, but I think that all of this is politically motivated. So even if the Biden administration finds a result to it, do we trust that it's not based on what his supporters want?
So, Bill, how would that play out internationally if there was some report that came out from the US government claiming that it did come from a lab and that there was something malicious or nefarious about it?
I think the first thing is, certainly from our friends at Fox, coming to Asia, we're going to be hearing more about that, certainly, perpetrating the big lie. But aside from that, we do believe that it's going to create a lot of xenophobia, this feeling of xenophobia, the anti-Chinese sentiment, which, again, it's a political agenda. I think that's probably the most harmful thing, but that can cause a lot of economic damage in terms of China relations to other countries as well. At the end of the day, everybody in the world is struggling, trying to get back public health, trying to get reopened again and struggling with their economies. People need to eat, people need to travel. These are the most important things. But this could very well go wrong, very, very wrong in terms of drawing a line between China. And also, you've seen the pickup of hate crimes in the U.S. in terms of Asian Americans and being say, oh, you're Chinese, and guys from Western Samoa. So always important.
All right, just finally, before we go today, Bill, I'd like to tell you the story about Shaun and what he's been doing over the past 12 months as he's found a way of finding a sustainable way to package up food and deliver it for people who have been really caught short in this whole COVID situation. Through no fault of their own, they've lost their incomes. And they're not in a position to pivot their business or change their business. They were just humble employees of larger companies that have just closed up. Can you tell us a bit about the origins of your story there?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that everybody that we help actually doesn't want us to help them. You know, the number one question they always ask me when I'm on the ground is, when are the international tourists going to come back? Because really they just want to get back to work. That's why when you ask me a question about where's the origins of the virus coming from, I'm like, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about when can we get the economics of Phuket turning over again so these people can get back to work. So we've been doing it now. I think we're about 14 months into this process of providing dry food, life bags to people around Phuket. And it all started out actually really from a need within my staff first. You know, we saw it hit. We had to stop our business for at least a month and a half. And our staff starting to feel hurt as well, because they weren't getting the access that they would normally get, like tips and so on. And so we started to help them, and then it was their families, and then it was village and village leaders, and now we work all over Phuket.
So you're not actually packaging up a pad thai and giving it to them. You're packaging up, what do you call them, life bags?
Yeah, we call it a life bag. So look, I did start early on giving cooked food, but just the logistics of doing that across the whole island is just difficult. So it's easier for us as we have a packing centre here in Surin where we deliver all our supplies to. We get a group of volunteers together, they pack the bags for us. So obviously now in COVID, it's a very small group that's doing that. But outside of restrictions, you know, we'd get 50, 60, 70 foreigners come and pack life bags with us. And then we have a team, my staff, that go to each of the village. They work with the village leaders and deliver it.
What's in a life bag?
So you're looking at rice. We're talking about 1.3 kilograms of rice. There's mama noodles, a black sauce like a mechi, cooking oil, mackerel so that they can put something in with their rice. Things like this. These are the basics that we put into it. Sometimes eggs. Also, we get a request a lot. There's basic things like washing liquid and that they need as well. So sometimes we rotate those eggs with washing liquid as well.
What's the reaction from the Thai community? I mean, how are Thais embracing this as well and pitching it, or do you kind of see this as a expat-led operation? It's always important how to get local engagement. That's a challenge, as we all know.
I think, you know, that there is a perception that this is an expat-led program, but I think that's because we're the faces out there trying to shine the light on this. But internally in my program, it's all Thai. You know, my delivery manager is Thai, my delivery staff are Thai, the packers are Thai, and in the community, it's very rare that we would have a foreign person handing out the life bags. We want it to be a Thai giving a Thai the life bag. All we are is just providing the spotlight so that we can, you know, raise awareness, raise funds, and also keep packing.
It's an amazing initiative. I mean, really, hats off.
Yeah, and it seems that there's going to be a need for this into the next few months at least.
Indefinitely, really.
This must scare you.
Look, it did. I think when we first started out, we thought maybe it would be a few months, and then when we saw that it was going to be longer than that, we've made a commitment personally that we think until at least October it's needed to continue at some scale. But outside of that, we don't think it's going to have to stop. We actually think that we could just maybe scale it down a little bit. You know, the week by week right now, we're doing between 2,000 and 5,000 life bags a week, and I think this April-May period, the need has spiked again. It's probably the worst economic period for the people that we're helping right now.
And we're heading into the wet season in the southern Thailand as well.
Yeah, and that's for us. I think the third wave of COVID coming in April was economically devastating, and now the fact that even if we do get to reopen in July, we're in probably the worst period of weather-wise in terms of, especially for my business, for the sea and for everything that's going to go on. So we're here for a while yet. We need to keep going.
So if people want to get involved, how do you help?
For us, you know, we have a community organisation called One Phuket. It's a group of foreigners and Thais all mixed together, and we have different roles going on right now. So we need people to come and help pack life bags. We need people who are willing to donate. We need people who go down to the local Villa Market. Villa Market now sells supplies for our life bags. Just go in there, add it to your trolley, and Villa Market will deliver it to us once a week.
We should say that there are programs right around Thailand, people doing good things to help their own local communities in Samui, Chiang Mai, around Bangkok. So we'll try and get a link to some of those organisations. Some of them have contacted us over the past week. We've done a few stories about these incredible people and the programs, but we'll try and put a list of the links underneath this story, or at least in another story at the Thaiger gmail.com. Well, that's about it. Bill, just very quickly, let's go through some of the other comments from yesterday. The mailbag. No. The Thaiger roar.
The Thaiger roar. Actually, talking about the Thaiger roar is actually Kevin Carr was saying, not sure about the Thaiger painting, it's a bit strong. But the Thaiger does growl, or the Thaiger roars, or
The Thaiger roars.
okay, exactly. So loud and proud, like your shirt, right?
If a tiger's growling, you're far too close.
Okay, and then from Ron John, we had a comment yesterday about Mr. Jet. You are the Mr. Jet. The hoodoo flu is a scam.
Okay.
Scam or not? What do we think?
We get a lot of people using the word plandemic and scandemic. Most of the time we block them because, personally, I think that's nonsense. What else you got, Bill?
Douglas Sweetlove, the COVID breathalyzer would be a huge plus, which I think is a great idea, actually.
This is the 1-minute breathinix technology. Which...
What do you think, Shaun? Breathalyzer?
I don't know. I read some of the comments that said that Tim's probably never taken a breathalyzer in his life. So,
well, interestingly, I don't drink, but I used to.
Was that a problem? I mean,
No. It's
just asking.
No. I never had a problem. I never started drinking, but I used to. In Australia, there used to be a lot of on the side of the road breathalyzers, and you'd be stopped, and I'd proudly go, wind down the window, stick that thing in my mouth. I'm very happy to blow it, and then I'd go around the block and do it again just to prove. I was happy to do the breathalyzer, but this would be a game changer. The breathinix technology. Anything else from the mailbag?
That's about it. I mean, we're going to be hearing a lot more things, I'm sure, after today's session. So
Sure.
be hearing a lot. Actually, we'll probably be hearing from Fox News as well, but that's okay.
And we welcome it too. A big thank you to you, Bill.
And all hail to Shaun. Shaun is my champion, my hero. This guy's doing great work. This is a great example of people doing something and getting off their butts and creating positives out there in a time of crisis. So well done, guy.
Stop complaining and do something useful. Thank you, Shaun, very much for coming in.
thank you, Tim.
And thank you, Jay, for pressing the buttons once again, the man in the back who you will never, ever see. And thank you very much to you for watching another Good Morning Thailand. We look forward to your comments, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.